All right, guys, we are back for another Dokkan Battle video. Let's go and take a look at this right here. So this is the teaser, right? We have the teaser that dropped that is letting us know we're about to move into part 2, right? We're gonna get the reveal for the part 2 characters, and you know we're gonna start to get on with that. Now, I like what they did here. I mentioned this in the first video last night, how they're going from kind of like this Parunga, or, you know, the Say Your Wish campaign, and then they kind of use that to push us into GT. Is a clever idea. I do like that. But we're now seemingly moving into GT. Okay. And, I mean, I'm going to start this video out by just, like, talking about this. Oh, we got the big calendar. That's beautiful. But I did just want to kind of, like, talk about, like, how these things work, right? So, like, Fusion Zamasu came out a couple of days ago. Damn, this is going to make the calendar go away, and then it's not going to be big anymore. Oh, yeah. So Fusion Zamasu came out on the 16th. And I've seen a lot of people, like, every night afterwards be like, all right, here we go, Vegeta and Trunks EZA details. And it's just like, I just want to tell them, like, guys, like, that's not really how it works. Usually, now, it is a big celebration, so sometimes they, you know, can do kind of like special stuff like that. But I think like an example of them potentially doing special stuff, right, would be like tonight, right, where it's no longer the Japanese weekend, right? They reveal the LRs, and then they could tweet out like Vegeta and Trunks data download, Vegeta and Trunks are in game, and then, you know, there will be another data download later in the week when the reveal happens. That would be an example, because I talk about it like, the game gets weekly data downloads, and I feel like a lot of times like that people kind of like lose sight of that, the fact that it's just like weekly data downloads and stuff during big celebrations, which we are in, right? This is one of the 2 biggest celebrations of the year, right? Which now, you know, previously was anniversary and then worldwide. Now it's, you know, JP anniversary, global anniversary, which is awesome, right? So they could do like a double data download, but it's like they don't drop like a character like Fusion's Master. Like they dropped Fusion's Master, they dropped a bunch of content, and then every single day since then, people have been like, all right, tonight's the night. It's like, well, no. I mean, we're moving into the Japanese weekend, which when they don't really, you know, release banners, do data downloads, really do a lot of stuff. Occasionally there could be a teaser or something like that. In particular, I can remember times in the past where during the World Tournament, right, you know, like, I think the first, like, kind of, like, hint, like, just, I don't know what to call it, I guess acknowledgement of Dragon Ball Super Broly in game or something like that, took place during World Tournament, right? Like, they kind of, like, you know, tweeted about the Broly movie, that Dragon Ball Super Broly stuff, you know, could be coming, right? You know, a lot of times, I remember several years in a row, our first look at the Heroes characters happened during the weekend, although that was to coincide with when the Heroes anniversary stream was. But, so it's like, you know, Zamasu comes out on the 16th, and it's like that, like, I mean, I would have asked to tell you guys, like, you know, go back and double check, and, like, I'm, like, that's the last content of that week right there, right? Now, we're on a new week, right? And I thought, like, maybe we could see Vegeta and Trunks at the start of this week with a data download, and then, because it's special celebration, we get a second data download towards the end of the week, where the actual, like, main part 2 banners and characters would be. Like, seeing that teaser last night doesn't make me think that's gonna happen, right? I don't think so. But I do think Vegeta and Trunks are going to EZA in this celebration. I just don't think it's happening right now, or for part 2, right? Another thing too with all this, well, we'll save it for a different video, but yeah, I mean, that's basically that, right? So again, Vegeta and Trunks, I do think they're going to EZA. They are on banners nowadays, at mostly characters that are going to EZA. As soon as we go into the celebration, we can get a good, like, idea of the characters that are going to, based upon who are featured on the banners and stuff like that, right? I do think Vegeta and Trunks will EZA. But what I think is going to happen is it's now going to be part 3 where they're going to EZA. Because I was wondering, like, okay, like, part 1 is Future, cool. Part 2 is GT, like, you know, seemingly, specifically, Shadow Dragon Saga. Okay, sounds good. what was like part 3 going to be? What was the EX part going to be? I wasn't really so sure. People have talked a lot about Carnival Super Saiyan Goku and Final Form Cooler, who still, I mean, could EZA here. But remember, the last couple of like worldwide characters have EZA during the JP anniversary. So it's like I wasn't going it like a lot of people, like, you know, the whole Namek ROF thing really, I think for a lot of people was just like them wanting like Cooler's EZA to be good, right? Like it's like, but like one thing people do need to remember too is that like, you know, the game is not built around these characters EZing and getting a home, right? Usually characters EZA to assist another character is typically what EZA character points are, right? Like, so in Fusion Zamasu, EZA to help Goku Black and Zamasu. I think he does a pretty good job of that. Vegeta and Trunks, them EZing would help out Blue Goku and Vegeta, although they don't need help. But remember, I mean, Vegeta has, I've got it pulled up right here. They put this on him and you can't use this. Like, it's so, like, they have to EZA Vegeta and Trunks during the celebration. Like, them throwing that on there. Or, I mean, you know, I've seen people say, oh, what about, like, maybe a Prime Battle Trunks? That would be something I think will probably potentially happen in part 3. But, yeah, maybe something like that. Like, you know, like stuff like that, right? So we see that. I do think Vegeta and Trunks, again, will EZA in part 3, right? Now, part 2 is going to be GT. But the thing about moving into part 2 GT is, I mean, I don't know which characters are going to EZA in part 2. So, or exactly what Omega Shenron is going to be either. If we look at Omega Shenron, right, let me just pull up his art right here. So here is Omega Shenron. We take a look at him. I'm hoping that we see him as a Sin Shenron that would transform into Omega. I hope that he would have some ability to allow bosses, like, so like, you know, Tech UI allows dodge canceling doesn't exist with Tech UI, right? Like his ability removes dodge canceling. I'm hoping that this guy has an ability that would remove attack debuffing. If that was the case, and this guy was a Sin that became Omega, Carnival Omega Shenron would probably actually be very good next to him. This guy would need to be a slot 1, of course, but like that would actually work, right? And then I think that would then open up the idea too, for the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta clones to be a thing. Now, I mean, there's a lot of arguments and discussion even about this topic. I am firmly planting my ass in the corner of let's do the Gogeta clones, because just quite simply fucking put, it's way more fun. It's just going to be way better with this than the Shadow Dragons no one knows their names of and shit like that. They can easily set Omega Shenron up without needing to do these clones. And, oh, by the way, Goku Black and Zamasu were the Carnival with 1 leader skill in part 1, and they got the clones to fill out the team. The Carnival here is the Super Saiyan 4s. Omega is going to have a dominant god leader skill, right? Like, if you look at Omega Shenron, well, to be fair, these guys was not the craziest. Just Future and Fuse Fighter could have been way better. But, like, Omega has he has some good categories, right? Well, I guess Transformation Boost, they do count Sin into Omega as Transformation Boost. Let me actually pull up AGL Omega, because his categories, this is probably, you know, what's better to look at right here. I mean, he's got really good categories he could be leading, right? Transformation Boost, Full Power, Battle of Fate, Inhuman Deeds, all really good, right? Battle of Fate and Inhuman Deeds both would include Goku Black and Zamasu. Battle of Fate would probably be better because that would also include Infusion Zamasu. So, I mean, it's like this guy's not coming into the game, like, probably lacking help, because he's a villain Dokkan Festelar character, right? So we're not really too concerned about that. Like, they could just drop the Gogeta clones, which is just quite simply, again, more fun. That's it. How about this? Let's start with fun and then work our way from there. But that's kind of like my hope, right? Is that we got a Sin into Omega. And if that was the case, then maybe, you know, Carnival Omega would be good. They get Super EZA this guy who could be good. But I've got a lot of GT characters pulled up. Not him. Let's just get him out of here for a second. I've got a lot of GT characters pulled up. These are all characters sort of who are in range to either EZA or Super EZA. I could see them Super EZA these guys right here. And then maybe the part 3 would be like Vegeta and Trunks and this guy as like the 2 EZAs for part 3. That's, I think, where I'm leaning with this. This guy almost assuredly is going to EZA during this celebration. And I think they could, you know, just drop both Super Saiyan 4s. Because, again, the Carnival is going to be a Super Saiyan 4 character. So maybe Carnival Power Beyond Super Saiyan or Shadow Dragon Saga or, you know, something like that. You know, we Super EZA these two. That's going to be a massive buff. Right, you know, we could work with the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta clones, you know, boom, like they're going to be off to the races and good. Super 17 is also up for an EZA. I mean, I just don't really give a fuck about in this instance, because guess what he doesn't have? He doesn't have Big Bad Bosses, which Omega's going to have, which, you know, theoretically, hopefully, Carnival Omega could be usable here. Specifically, if we were... Carnival Omega is good as long as you could attack debuff. That's it. So, like, that's why, like, you know, a lot of theoreticals on Carnival Omega being good, but he would be a Big Bad Bosses character as well. And then Super 17 is just not a Big Bad Bosses character. So, I mean, him and AJL Super 17, they could kind of save it for a different celebration for me, but, you know, whatever. This character could potentially EZA from Battlefield. That could be cool. And then, I mean, there is also these guys here. Probably not, I guess. Since STR Omega would probably need to Super EZA first, right? And in Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta hasn't even EZA'd yet. So that makes me think that those would probably come before these guys, but I mean, you never know. You never know, right? There's those. And then I do also have these 3 pulled up. I don't see it as like Super EZAs for these 3. But, like, this is how they could get, like, could you imagine, like, just, like, they end the celebration with, like, these guys super easing or something? Like, I don't know. It could be pretty nuts, right? But, like, that's, right now, I think I'm locking it in. I kind of would think maybe part 3, you know, would be, like, some type of new content stage, you know, geared around some big future opponent, one around some Shadow Dragon Saga opponent, and then, you know, like, these 2 both EZing is probably what we could see for part 3. I do think this character is going to EZA in this celebration. Just them sitting there on that banner like that, I'm sorry, it's just too suspicious. They're EZing. It's just, is it part 3? I think so. So, let me know what you guys think. Vegeta and Trunks, but I think they're coming right up very soon. Oh, by the way, when is that going to be? So this week is part 2. I would think part 3, it actually is usually like right there, isn't it? It would be like probably like the 4th or so. Somewhere around that range is where I'd probably expect it. The celebration itself is ending over here. So 4th or maybe even like the 1st would be the where part 3 is actually going to happen. And then we'll see if there'll be like an EX part or something like that. Maybe, maybe not. Remember, we are going to be moving right into a Dokkan Fest on the 11th as well. Right? Because remember, they did like... It's hard to explain, but they made us wait an extra week going into this celebration. So that's going to end up being like one less week we'd have to wait for a future Dokkan Fest in the future, blah, 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 right? So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, but I do still expect to see these boys EZing for this celebration. Thanks guys for watching. I'll catch y'all next time.